Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to take you guys through the steps I used to refinish this hutch. The first step we're going to do right now is actually prepping. So I've got a couple items here. I've just got a sanding block. I don't actually know what grit this is. Anything will do. You're just going to break up the surface. You don't need to get down to bare wood. I've got a screwdriver to take off the hardware, and then I've got a wood filler here, and this is a fast drying one. There we go. It's a fast drying one. You can sand small repairs after 15 minutes and you can paint after 2 hours. And then I just have a little putty knife. So our first step is going to be to go in and take out all the hardware. So now I've got the old hardware removed. It's time to think about new hardware, which is one of the most fun pieces of redoing a project because the shape of it will determine whether it's like farmhouse or modern, but you can do a lot with the right hardware. So for me, there goes Jordan, I went with bin poles because that's what I have in my kitchen. This is really close to the kitchen, and to me that kind of just always screams farmhouse. So I picked ones that are really similar to my kitchen. And I just picked these up at Home Depot. They were, I think, $4 a piece. And there's the information from them. So if you wanted to do it more with like a modern twist, you could do something like just a thin handle, like a bar. You could do like a brushed nickel or maybe even a lucite. If you wanted to do more of like a vintage thing, I would go with those like faceted glass ones that are really pretty. But anyways, I'm going to go with these. And I like to go ahead and kind of figure out where they're going to go and drill the holes before I do all the patching. That way, if I make a mistake with drilling it, I can just patch everything all at once. So we've got that for each of the drawers. And on the big doors, I picked some kind of like oval-shaped knobs. They're in the same finish. And there's their part information in case you want that. But I'm trying to decide, I don't know if I'm going to go up there where the old one was. I think I might go more here because in the few days I've been using this, it's kind of awkward to pull from the center. I think having the handle here would be a much better option. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just make a new hole there. And I'm going to use that little drawer hardware kit that I showed you guys before. This thing is a lifesaver. I think I paid around $7. So if you're going to do cabinets or pieces of furniture and you do it often, definitely invest in this thing. It comes from Home Depot. You get these two pieces. Okay, so I brought you guys in closer. Hopefully you can see how this little thing works. Really easy. It just hangs on the top of the drawer. Because there was already a pull here, I'm just going to use those holes to center it so I don't have to do any measuring. And I already know that my drawer pulls, these have the option of going at, I think it was 2.5 or 3. So I can use, whichever set of holes I want. I'm going with the most narrow ones. And then I just got to figure out where on the drawer I want it. So kind of centered. And that is going to be this set of holes. And I just make a mark with a nail just so I can see where I'm going to go in and drill the hole through. And I'm just going to use the drill bit they gave me because they give you one that's like a standard drawer hardware size. There's some tiny marks there now. And I'm going to go ahead and drill it up. holes drilled. You probably noticed on these that I just eyeballed it. They're on opposite sides, so if it's like a centimeter off, you're not going to notice as much as you would with the ones that line up and down the center of a drawer. So now what we're going to do, there's holes so I can close them because you can always stick like a screw in to kind of pry them open if you needed to. I'm just going to go over it with the sanding block. Like I said, you're just kind of roughing up the surface. I'm using chalk paint, so it's really not even necessary because chalk paint will stick without much prep work at all. But just to give it a little bit of extra grip, you're just trying to take off some of the shine. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more sanding, and then I will come back and show you how to fill up the holes. Alright, so it's been about 2 hours. The sanding is ready to be done. So I'm just going to go in and take down any of the high spots on this so it's smooth again. Now that all the prep work is done, we can get to the exciting part of painting. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Waverly chalk paint from Walmart. This is my favorite one to use on furniture. I tried a different one recently and it was a disaster, so I went happily back to this. And I just put it in an old Tupperware, and I like to use kind of like the short angled brush. It's good for getting into like all these tiny crevices. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put some in here. The top, like I said, took 3 coats. So I did 2 coats full strength. The third coat I did diluted because I was getting low on paint. But you can dilute chalk paint. It'll give it just a little bit of a thinner look. So I'm just going to go ahead and you guys can watch me kind of work the paint in and transform it as we go. So you guys can see I finished the first coat, and I just wanted to show you how it looks after the first coat. Now it's not dry yet, and I'm just going to tidy up some of those drips. But I wanted to point out that if you're doing it and it's like your first time, the first coat, like 9 times out of 10 when I'm working on something, the first coat is like streaky and it looks terrible. So don't get discouraged. Keep going. This is going to take probably 3 coats like the top did. So I'm not going to film all the coats happening. They're all going to be the same as that first coat. And then we'll come back and we'll put the hardware on, and I'll show you guys how I sand it. Actually, I'll do that before I put the hardware on. Just like a finishing sand to smooth out any brush strokes. But we're going to let this dry for a little bit. Chalk paint will dry really quick, actually. So I can probably come back and do a second coat, I would say within the hour, probably more like a half hour. So yeah, that's going to be our next step. Let's let this dry. I'm going to go work on some other crafty projects. Hey guys, so the piece is dry. Now we're going to go in and do some sanding. I have a couple different types of sandpaper here. These are just little scrap squares that come with those kits for the hand sanders. And I've got one in a 120 grit and a 50 grit. And then this is the kind that we're going to use for finishing. And I am using the one that is 220 grit. And this I just picked up at Walmart. It's actually in the painting section. It was like $4 for a few sheets. So we're going to set that one aside for now. We're going to go in with these little guys here, and we're going to put in any type of like distressing or wear on the top. You can see I did it around the edges, places that people would like naturally have touched over time and the paint would have worn away. So I'm just going to go in and do that. And this is one of those things that you can do and kind of like make it your own. Some people like them chippier, some people don't. But you can see I'm going to just go any place that's kind of like a high place and just take some of the finish off. So I'm going to go in and do this whole thing, and then we'll come back and do the finish sanding. Alright, so now we're going to work on the finish sand, and I just brought you guys in closer so you can see. I don't know if the camera's going to show, but you can see there's some brush strokes. This is going to help to smooth some of that out. So I like to fold it because it's easier for me to handle. And you're just going to go in and lightly go over everything. This isn't going to distress the piece. This is just going to remove any of those brush strokes and give it like a really smooth finish. It won't be shiny, so you'll still keep that, like the benefit of chalk paint, the matte finish that you like. But it will make it really soft to the touch. And it'll just make it look really nice and smooth.